So let's have a little chat, shall we? While I sit here in the dark and just think, meditate. I saw an article. Let me start off by saying this. I saw an article by LL Cool J where he said that he feels as though that Generation X, which is my generation too, well, I'm actually on the cusp between I'm a millennial and I'm a Generation Xer. I'm both. Because I was born in 1979, at the end of 1979 in August, the end of August. So really and truthfully, I'm more of a Xer / millennial, which is why I can relate more so to millennials, which is why I relate more so to them and they relate more so to me, because I'm the bridge that bridges the gap of the past. I give them information about the past and they help me to be more modern. So I have respect for millennials. You know what I mean? Because some of them are ancient gods returned. And a lot of times we Generation Xers and us older people, we get wrapped up in our titles. And we think, oh, because this person is this age, that means, oh, that they're beneath me. Oh, no, 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 no. I talk to very, very, very wise ones that oftentimes I may have to get them to, give me some, advice on certain things. You feel what I'm saying? Not that I need it, but they're there. One of them is my little brother from the United Kingdom. He's only in his early 20s and he is one of those ancient, gods returned. Very wise, has a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and the way he can see things, because he's Horus, he can see beyond the veil and the bullshit. But I think LL Cool J was talking in terms of the hip hop industry and how music is more so catered towards Generation Xer. Millennials, and Generation Xers were they gave birth to the hip hop, whatever. But I want to take it a step further. I don't just want to keep it in the category of music. Let's really have a conversation about Generation Xers, especially here in DC. I get what he's saying, but at the same time, I'm not discrediting what he's saying. Because he's been true to the game, from everything that I've known about him. So I'm not discrediting what Mr. Cool J is saying at all. But I just want to say, in retrospect, I think the downfall of Generation Xers can only be placed on Generation Xers. Because where I come from, and watching how Generation Xers moved back in the early 90s up until this point, I think now Generation Xers are starting to get a wake-up call. See, I got the wake-up call when I was a teenager because I've always been, conscious. I just didn't know it. It took people bringing it out of me so I could see it for myself. You know what I mean? But I've always been conscious. Generation Xers brought a lot of this on themselves, even in the hip-hop industry. You all opened up the gateway and the doors for your own downfall. You did it yourself. It may not have been you personally, but the people that you are associated with, the people that were, associated with the hip hop industry who were at the top, they are the ones, the Generation Xers at the top, and maybe even the baby boomers at the top. They're the ones who brought in the downfall of what you call the Generation Xers hip hop era. And it's true, the Generation Xers were the ones who really got down in hip hop, and they were really the birthers of the best of some of the best hip hop that was ever fucking created. I mean, Rakim, the list goes on and on. So who else? CL Smooth. The list goes on and on. You know what I'm saying? The 1990s they were at a precipice when it came to the hip hop industry at that time. So what really happened on an occult level? What really happened? See, that's what I do. I'm the occult view, and I give my occult perspective. What really happened that really caused the downfall of really good hip hop music? What really of that Generation Xers birthed? What really caused the downfall of the Generation Xers in the hip hop industry? I'll tell you what caused it: sexual perversion, greed, thirsty for more power, mind control. Because hip hop back in the day, it took you to a place, even a gay person like me, even a gay guy like me, and although the rap community and hip hop community, the black ones, all of them, they've never really been really gay friendly, especially towards gay black people. I get that. But putting that aside, I always respect those brothers and sisters who have that talent because they tell a story. I didn't always have that respect and for them because I listened to their lyrics and I found them offensive at one time. You know what I'm saying? But the more conscious I became, I was able to put that aside and listen to the talent and the artwork and the telling of a story and the energy and just the consciousness in some of them. And that right there to me was more important than anything, So, for me, when I see hip hop and what it has become now, because at that time, hip hop in the 90s, it took you to a place. It had the ability to take you to a place to make you think. It took you to a place inside of you. This is just me speaking personally. It took me to a place of home. It took me to a place where I could connect with my soul. That's what hip hop used to do. It told a story. That's just like Tupac's song, Brenda's Got a Baby, for example. Everybody knows somebody, a young girl that was in a situation like that. That video was so graphic and it told the true story of ghetto life. We as gay people, we go through shit too. Gay black people, we go through shit too. It's not just y'all. We have compassion and empathy for what we see. Well, I do. For what we see, brothers and sisters going through as well, So when I look at a video like that, like Brenda's Had a Baby, everybody could relate to something like that. You knew somebody down the street maybe. Maybe it was somebody in your family. Even Tupac's song about his mother. What is it called? I can't think of the name of it, but you know what I'm talking about. And I'm using Tupac because I have an admiration for him, have an admiration for his energy. You know what I'm saying? And what he represented. No matter how he may have felt about homosexuality, I don't care anything about that. You know what I mean? A lot of people may have an issue with homosexuality, but I still may respect their energy. Doesn't mean I want to be best friends with them. Doesn't mean I want to, be pals with them, but I respect their energy if they're saying something that can expand the minds and change the minds of people and help you to expand your consciousness. But what was that other song about? I think it's called You Are Appreciated. It goes something like that. Lady, you know what I'm talking about. Dear Mama, that's it. Dear Mama, I couldn't think of it. Songs like that really help you to think. It really helped you to really connect. And it took you outside of yourself where you were not thinking about yourself so much in a materialistic, egotistical way. And I think that is the difference between hip hop of the past and the hip hop that we currently have, where LL Cool J is saying is mainly being catered to millennials. But there had to have been someone who pushed that through. There had to have been someone who was a Generation Xer, because we've been here longer than millennials. So some Generation Xer had to lay the groundwork for that. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to be totally honest with you. When you all allowed Eminem into your motherfucking shit, when you started allowing others, you opened up the gateway for what we have now. We have hip hop now that does not tell a story. We have hip hop now that only regurgitates materialism, egotism, narcissism, greed, hatred of self, hatred of anything that has to do with, spirituality, hatred of anything that has to do with real consciousness. I mean, like I said before, B.O.B. is that's one of the few rappers that I know, because I'm not really into rap like that. I'm just not. But that's one of the few rappers that I know that I have seen. I don't know him, but that I've seen that is really conscious on a real fucking level. You can see it in him. You can sense it in him no matter what. You feel what I'm saying? I'm sure there are others. Tupac was another one. Sometimes B.O.B. even reminds me a little bit of Tupac, his energy. Sometimes he does. He does, because he was one of the people that spoke out, because he has a revolutionary spirit as well. He was one of the people that spoke out and said, this ain't right. This is going this way. This don't make sense to me. He had the balls and the courage to do that. That's a revolutionary type of mindset. And see, that's the difference between a lot of hip hop artists of today and the ones that were in the past. A lot of the ones in the past had a revolutionary type of spirit with them. So not only did they make the money, but they also had a story to tell to help you expand your own consciousness. And that's what's lacking in today's hip hop. It doesn't help you to expand your consciousness. It doesn't, most of it. Most of it is designed to just keep you entrapped. And it has an off-key, it has an off-key tone to it. It does not have any, what's the word that I'm looking for? It's not multi-toned. It doesn't have multi-tones and multi-melodies that you can relate, that you can, connect to and understand the stories, because certain musical tones and melodies, they connect with certain brain functions or brain waves or whatever you want to call it, electrical functions of your brain to help you think, to take you outside of yourself. And I know I'm paraphrasing here, but I'm just making the point that LL Cool J is saying that hip hop of today is only catering to millennials and they're ignoring Generation Xers. Well, Generation Xers ignored Generation Xers. You can't blame millennials for something that generational Xers laid the groundwork for. How come we have not had the next great, not to my knowledge, and again, I don't know a lot about rap. I'm a gay guy. What do I know? What do I know? I'm just speaking from my own perspective. And this is no disrespect to anybody in the rap game, of course. Just speaking from my own perspective. Who is the next great Rakim? Or Grandmaster Jay, or who's the next great one? Who's the next CL Smooth and Pete Rock? What happened to all of these brilliant black brothers who were brilliant? Who's the next Tupac? You feel what I'm saying? Not from what I've seen. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, even though it may seem like they're catering to millennials, but somebody made that decision, and it was somebody that was a Generation Xer. You feel what I'm saying? It was somebody within that group that made that decision. It was somebody within that paradigm that made that decision to cater more to the millennials, or to really take what I would like to say. Let me say it this way, because I don't want to babble. Somebody made that decision to suck the soul out of hip hop, because that's exactly what has happened. The soul has been sucked out of hip hop. The soul has been sucked out of hip hop. Even the hip hop artists back in the day or the rap artists back in the day or gangster rappers back in the day, they weird as fuck now. They weird as fuck. Snoop Dogg is weird as fuck to me now. Him up there with Martha Stewart and all that shit. That's not the Snoop Dogg that I remember from back in the day. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with it, but I noticed a change. He does not have the same energy. Who sucked the soul out of hip hop? It was somebody in the Generation Xer camp. They realized that they could profit off of, I guess you can say, changing the entire industry to cater to a totally different audience who has a totally different vibration than the Generation Xers. So because that makes more money versus telling a story and getting people to think, because that's the difference between hip hop now and then. Hip hop then got you to think. It took you to a place it took you to a spiritual place. It did for me. It took me to a spiritual place. It made me think. And it had a good vibration to it. There's a song by CL, what's his name? CL? I just said his name, shit. Pete Rock and CL Smooth. It's called Lots of Lovin'. And when I listen to that song, it just takes me to an ethereal place. It takes me out of my body. Even though the song is about heterosexual relationships, it's the melody, it's the tone, it's the vibe. You can really get into it. You feel what I'm saying? For me now, hip hop does not have that same vibe and vibration. So I get what LL Cool J is saying, but I don't want to just make it about blaming millennials or saying that millennials, it's all being catered to millennials, because somebody had to put that into effect, But what happened was, sorry for all the babbling, what happened was, and here's the occult view, here's the occult assessment, the soul was sucked out of hip hop. The soul was sucked out of it. It was taken out of it. The consciousness was taken out of hip hop. And anybody that's a rapper or a hip hop artist that speaks, on a conscious level, like a B.O.B., for example, anybody that has that type of consciousness, they try to ostracize them. They try to isolate them, like they did B.O.B., like they did him. Because he had a different perspective. Whether they agreed with it, whether it was right or wrong, he had a different perspective. He thought outside of the box. Because he's one of those ancient millennials, like I told y'all about, that then came back. He's one of them ancient gods returned. And he thought outside of the box and said, I'm not sure about that. Not sure about this. Not sure about that. So when you have somebody, let me just say this. They wanted to suppress. They wanted to suppress and oppress and get rid of any hip hop artist who could expand people's consciousness. So a lot of them, they set them up to be killed, like they did Tupac and Biggie. They pitted, and of course we all know that there's somebody, behind the scenes doing that shit, Puff Daddy, allegedly, who set these men up to be at each other's throats. These men who could have made great music with each other, Biggie and Tupac. They could have made great music with each other. They could have come together and been cool, but they were pitted against each other. And oftentimes that's what happens to a lot of black men in general. And it happens to black men definitely in the industry, because from what I'm hearing, that East Coast, West Coast bullshit was perpetrated and it wasn't even fucking real. So once they got them to go at each other's throat, kill them off, take out the ones that were really conscious, and if they didn't kill them off, they just shut them off, took away their voice, because they don't want people like a Tupac or a Rakim or a B.O.B. They don't want people like that helping people to raise their frequency and vibration. They don't want people like that. So I don't think it's necessarily, all about this or that. I think it's about what really happened to hip hop. And what happened was they took out all of the hip hop artists that could make you think, that could expand your consciousness, and then they replace them with people like Drake. And I don't give a fuck who's a Drake fan. I don't give a fuck if you get mad. I don't care, because I come from another fucking generation. But Drake is for this generation and this vibration and this frequency. So there's no disrespect to him. This is where we're in a totally another frequency and vibration now versus what we were in the 80s and 90s and prior to, prior to that. So the consciousness was taken out of hip hop. The soul was taken out of hip hop. And now we have what we have now. And I think that is why LL is saying, millennials are being more so catered to versus, the Generation Xers who have practically been ignored. Now, do I feel ignored? No, I feel like I'm a millennial. Because most people think that I'm in my 30s, and if it's a good damn day, some people think I'm 29 or 30. So, I still fit, I can still, change into whatever I want to change into. I'm Tahuti, remember, so I can do that. So that's just my perspective on, what really happened to hip hop. They took out all of the artists that were really talented, that could tell a story. There are very few of them left. There are very few of them left that could really tell a story, that can really, really make you think. Now the story is how much money you got, how many bitches you fucking with fake asses, fake titties, fake teeth, fake faces, fake motherfucking every motherfucking thing. Is your bitch finer than mine? How many white boys can you get to suck your dick, on the low, and all that old bullshit. That's the energy it's been replaced with. Because back in the motherfucking day, I know for a fact, Snoop Dogg and Shaggy and the rest of these motherfucking niggas, they wouldn't have been up on no Andy Cohen show giving no white Jewish guy no motherfucking props. At least not no gay white Jewish guy no props. So hip hop has been infiltrated on so many levels. You know what I'm saying? It has been infiltrated on so many motherfucking levels. And it's not the same, as we all know. It's just not the same. And that's because the ones who were conscious, the ones who were speaking truth, the ones who could really get you to think and to expand your consciousness and to raise your vibration, those artists were killed off. And you all know that. They were killed off. And then their energies were probably taken and put into somebody else, but it doesn't work because you can't do that because everybody is not compatible with everybody's energy. You feel what I'm saying? Now, I did run into, and I know this is going to sound crazy, I did run into Tupac's energy in a revolutionary type of dude who's also transitioned as well, and his name was Christopher Berry. Christopher Berry was a form of that Tupac Mayat, Harmarku, Kepera type of energy. And you all know, people that know me, you know Christopher Berry, you know who I'm talking about, because I've mentioned him before. He was part of that energy, so I had an opportunity of coming in contact with Tupac's energy in another physical vessel, because that's how shit works, that's how it works. But he transitioned as well. But at least I had an opportunity to come in contact with that energy. You feel me? And I came in contact with that energy because I summoned it. But I'm not going to get too much into that. But I didn't know it was going to come through Christopher Berry, Marion Berry's son. I didn't know it was going to come through him. But anyway, I just wanted to come through and give my occult assessment on, what happened to hip hop. And it's deeper than just, Generation X being ignored. Somebody within that Generation X camp, they laid the groundwork for this. And they started putting people in positions of power and putting people in positions that really did not have the talent, the soul, or the energy to really keep things afloat as they were in the 90s when it came to hip hop. They didn't have that same shine and spark as a Tupac, as a group like NWA. You know what I'm saying? They didn't have that type, because those were revolutionary type of men at that time. No matter what we may think about their personal lives, it doesn't matter if Dr. Dre is allegedly gay and getting fucked in the ass and all that. It doesn't matter. That doesn't matter. We're talking about the energy that they were putting out, the revolutionary type of energy that they were putting out. Sometimes you got to separate the humanity from what's really going on, which is the message they were putting out. We don't have those types of groups anymore, because a lot of those niggas, if they're alive, they've been paid off, or they've just been taken out for the count. Taken out. They've been mind controlled and paid off. Money is the best way to mind control somebody. You know? Money is the best way to mind control somebody. You know, so, not saying that rappers of this generation don't have talent, but when it comes to the Generation X my generation, though, I'm saying those hip hop artists, rappers, they told a story. They told a story that could make you think, that could make you expand your consciousness, that took you out of yourself. And these rappers and hip hop artists of today, they don't have that talent. They have different types of talent, because now, and I'm about to end this because I didn't expect this to be this long, whereas Generation Xers back in the day, they cultivated more so the spiritual side of themselves and of in their music. Millennials nowadays, they cultivate more the materialistic side. So whether we realize it or not, back then they were more so tapping into their Christ consciousness, and now in this age they're tapping in more so into their materialism, which is, I guess you can say, that's the satanic side of them. So that is where you get the satanic shit, where they talk about, the music industry is satanic. But when you understand symbolism, and when you can see what's really going on, because remember, Tupac, if you break down his energy, he is a form of Harmarku and Kepra. That's a Christ figure. You feel what I'm saying? He was part of that Christ-like type of energy. It's not just one person, y'all. No matter what them fucked up ass Christians say. It's not just one motherfucking person. He was part of that Christ-like energy. That's why they had to take him out. But now, let me give you a prime example from the Bible. When Jesus was tempted on the mountain by Satan, Satan offered him all of the kingdoms of the world and riches and everything, and Jesus rejected that allegedly, because he was cultivating his spiritual side. You see what I'm saying? He was cultivating his subconscious mind, unlocking and tapping into different aspects of his subconscious mind. So when you look at it, you can look at it like this. The Generation X, they tapped more so into the subconscious mind and spiritualism, whereas Millennials, the hip hop of today, is more so cultivating the satanic side of you, which could be looked at in some ways as materialism. And I'm only using this as an analogy. So it can also go ego versus the subconscious mind. It could go conscious mind versus the subconscious mind, any way you want to look at it. But either way, we're talking about shifting and changing of energies and consciousness. And now we're in a place where it's all about materialism. So we're not in that Christ consciousness age of hip hop anymore. We're not in that anymore. Now we're in the age of, I guess you can say, the satanic forms of hip hop. And when I say satanic, I'm not talking about bad or good or evil. I'm talking about materialism, earthly things. You can also say the Gab side, because they're the hip hop artists of today. They tell stories of materialism and how to cultivate materialism. That is what they're tapping into. They are no longer tapping into their their music. Let me just say that their music is no longer tapping into anything that has to do with consciousness or spirituality. Even the hip hop artists in Generation X of that era, even if they weren't doing it on a conscious level, they still had there were still droplets of wisdom and enlightenment and knowledge in their lyrics and the stories that they told. You don't get that today. Today it's simply about materialism. So they've taken out the soul. They've taken out the Christ consciousness of it. I'm saying that in layman's terms to put it in a more occult perspective. They've taken that out. So now you're left with materialism. You're left with materialism. You're left with, money and riches, earthly riches, and there's no message of consciousness in their music anymore. That was all taken out, and that was not planned by a millennial. That was planned by one of these Generation Xers, probably. So, who do you blame? I guess there's nobody to blame. But that's just my occult assessment on, the hip hop industry. And again, I don't know a lot about hip hop, but I'm just going by what I see and what I know and, my own perspective. And that's really all I have to say. Any comments, concerns, and questions? Whatever.